Hello and welcome to this video. This video is going to be called the 10 worst films about music. They're not documentaries, we're talking about sort of music themed films made by bands. You're not we're talking about musicals either, right? Although there is one musical on here and there's a reason why it's on. In fact, I think there's two on here. So we have got musicals on here. I quite like musicals, don't hate them, but there's two musicals that I absolutely bloody hate in terms of films, and the one's bloody obvious. Now, I've got to admit, right, on this list, there's a couple of films I've never watched, okay? So what we're dealing with here, this isn't pretty researched at all. I'll give it that now, right now, up front. This is not well researched, okay? I've just done 2 videos. I've looked at my list. I was going to do some research for this, and I thought, no, should we just bang it out of the park? Because I was in the mood. I was in the right ranty mood. Just done a rant about Bryan Adams. I thought, you're in the mood for ranting. Do you really need to know about these to rant about them? I'm pretty sure. I had a look at this. I thought, I can get through this. There's a couple that I've sort of half watched. There's one I've never watched at all. And when I get to that, I'll just have to rant about how bad it is based upon what I think it's like. And it might be very good in reality, but I'll let you know about that when we get there. So you're ready for my 10 worst films, music films, or films about music? Now, music films. Let's start again. Are you ready for my 10 worst music films of all time? Ranked 10 to 1, 1 being the worst. Right, let's start. At number 10, I have the album. At number 10, I have the film that was made by the Village People around about 1979-80, when they were at the peak of their powers. They'd had such wonderful hit records as YMCA, recently, gaining a resurgence through the use by Donald Trump to woo the MAGA lot, right? But also in the Navy they did, I don't know, what did they do? Go West, is that them? I feel it is. But really, I can only think of 2 songs. And really, if you look at the success they had in the late 70s, early 80s, did this really warrant a film? But it did, apparently. And they made a film called Can't Stop the Music, which I think is another one of their hits.
It's the musical extravaganza that launches the 80s. It's Alan Carr's Can't Stop the Music.
Now, I can remember watching this film as a youngster, a few years out after it had come out, and obviously it got sold to television relatively quick, and we sat down one Saturday afternoon and I watched it. And I remember watching something that looks very, very strange to me. And the reason is because Village People were they were basically like a gay group, right? And they come out as sort of the New York gay scene, I suppose, that sort of Studio 54 gay campy thing that was going on there, which is a wonderful thing. I've got no homophobia in me whatsoever, so I don't think we're going down that route. And what they'd done is they had basically created a sort of boy band, because they weren't a proper band. They didn't play like guitar, bass and drums or anything, Village People. I never thought I'd be doing Village People on here, but we actually are. So I am pulling on my knowledge of Village People. But the thing about Village People was, the clever thing about them, even though they didn't play any instruments, was the fact that they each one was a sort of gay stereotype, wasn't it? So who had you got? Let's see if I can remember it. Obviously, you've got the biker with the big moustache. And he was my favourite one when I was a kid, because he looks both rocky and proggy. In terms of prog moustaches, he had he was such a hell of a moustache. Then you had the Native American, didn't you? You had him. That's 2. I think it was 5. Then you had the motorcycle cop, didn't you? That was the black guy, wasn't it, on the motorcycle? That's 3. You had the cowboy, and you had the sort of bloke that comes around to, like, the plumber, I think. That was what it was. Is that they were the 5, right? So when you got a film, you've now got to somehow have a plot line which incorporates a biker with a prog moustache, a motorcycle cop, a cowboy, a Native American, and the other one, the plumber. Right, now the thing is, if you watch Don't Stop the Music, even though, and this is the thing, even I picked this up as a kid, and it confused me. It did deeply confuse me, this. So, they're gay sort of stereotypes. But I don't think anyone in Village People was actually gay, except for one. And I would have to, if I was going to have a guess which one it was, I'd go for the Native American. But I don't know. I've got no idea, but I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to hazard a guess just by my basic, gaydar. And this is a test of my gaydar now, which you didn't expect to happen. I didn't expect to happen, but you can go and research that. Is the Native American, was he the actual proper gay in Village People? Was he the only gay in the village? That's a little Britain joke there for you. And that was quite clever for me, actually. I like that. Right, anyway, move on. So, but in the film, they aren't gay. It's quite a normal family film. So they're going off doing all these normal things. And so you have these things where you've got these blokes who are not gay, pretending to be gay, and then pretending not to be gay. Right? And for me, that conceit undermined the whole film. As a young man watching it, I thought, I don't understand this. And then once you realise that, the whole edifice of the plot falls down and you realise it's just some sort of New York coke-fueled nightmare of a film, and it's at number 10, right? At number 9, I've got a film I've never seen, right? One of the ones I've never seen, but I do know the musical, and it's not a bad musical, but it does seem like a bit of a stupid musical, and it's Cats. Now, the musical Cats, I'm not a fan of that anyway, right? Now, it's by Andrew Lloyd Webber. Now, Andrew Lloyd Webber is behind the incredible Variations album, which is one of the greatest progressive rock albums of the later 70s. So Andrew Lloyd Webber knows what he does, but then he writes, what did they do, him and Tim Rice? Jesus Christ Superstar, then he did Evita, didn't he? And then he goes weird, and he does one about trains, Starlight Express, and then he does one about cats, right? And there's one thing being dressed up as a cat on stage. I mean, the whole thing's rubbish anyway. But if you're going to make a film version of it, right, don't get that James Corden in.
Right, well, that's not going to work, is it? That's what I say to you.
Right? I know he did musical theatre at school, right? But everyone hates him. He's annoying. I don't like him very much, right? Nobody likes him, James Corden, do they? They don't like him. And he ruins absolutely everything, especially when he sings. And all the computer graphics, all the money they stuck into Cats, everything. Once he was in it, it was ruined. I mean, you got Judi Dench in that film, haven't you? And she's really good, I suppose. But I mean, what in the hell's going on? I've never seen it. Wasn't it a box office bomb, Cats? So I've put it on there at number 9, Cats, rubbish, right? And that's obvious. That's low-hanging fruit. We've had low-hanging fruit. Now, I'm going to start being an iconoclast now. At number 8, I've got Bohemian Rhapsody, the biopic of Queen. It's utter rubbish, okay? Now, Queen were almost the biggest band in the bloody world already. And then, with their brilliant management and business acumen, they decided to fashion this film. After doing that We Will Rock You that Ben Elton wrote, that's bloody awful as well. I haven't seen that, but it sounds awful. Everything Queen does, except for Queen, is bloody awful. That's the bottom line. Queen without Freddie, all the stuff they done is bloody awful. Queen with that Adam bloke in singing, bloody awful. We Will Rock You, bloody awful. And this Bohemian Rhapsody is bloody awful, but everybody loves it, right? They all love it. All the kids love it, and it's put Queen back on the map, hasn't it? And now Queen's bigger than bloody Led Zeppelin. Queen's bigger than the Beatles. Queen's bigger than anybody because of this stupid film, right? Now, this film, of course, is absolute rubbish. Right, and I can tell you why it's rubbish. There's a number of reasons why it's rubbish. Firstly, it falls into the terrible conceit that all these films do, and I can't stand it, is when a band's just formed and they're in the rehearsal room and they're about to write a classic record. You know, that type of thing?
So now what?
This is when the operatic section comes in.
And you see how they go, I've been messing around with this idea. What is it? Oh, well, I don't know really. It was like, I was thinking about writing an opera, but in a rock format. Oh, that's quite a good. Have you got any ideas? Well, yeah, I was thinking of this, but I can't come up with something that after it. I was thinking, I see a little silhouette of a man. I can't come up with everything. And then, oh, well, I see a little, I can't wait. How about Scaramouche? Oh, that sounds good. Let's try that then. Let's all run it down. And then they all astonish as they create this piece of jigsaw. Anyone's been in a band, it's never ever like that. And it's a conceit, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, when you've got a band as iconic as Queen, when they get other blokes to play them and they've got false wigs on, it does my head in. I feel like I've gone into an alternate universe where Queen has been deformed in some sort of, cosmic bloody pod, like The Fly, and they've come out the other end all not quite right. All their faces swapped over, and I don't like that, right? So I'm not keen on these biopics. The Elton John one's better because it's so full of fantasy. The greatest musical biopic is, of course, the Weird Al Yankovic one. Go and watch that with the bloke from Harry Potter. That's how you do a biopic, and that's how this one should have been done. But how you could traverse your way through a film which is so full of lies, it's just none of it is true. And then on top of that, you're dealing with a band that should have had a biopic which actually covered. I mean, I'm sat there, here's Bohemian Rhapsody. What's the most famous thing about Queen? What is the most famous Queen? We all know what the most famous thing about Queen is that they had parties, and at those parties they had dwarves, and those dwarves had pots on their head full of cocaine, right? That's Queen. That's I don't know. I know some biographical. I mean, I know Freddie Mercury was born in Zanzibar. I know that, right? What else do I know? He died in 1991 from AIDS. It's a terrible thing. So I've got the beginning and the end there for Freddie. I know that Brian May's an astronomer and he wears clogs. None of this was in the film. Where's the clogs? Where's the dwarves? Right? Where's the girls? Where's the fat bottom girls? Nobody mentions fat bottom girls. Remember they got these bare ladies on bicycles riding around Queen Ad. Where's all that? Was that in the film? Might have been, can't remember. And then the whole Live Aid thing, it's all so wrong. It's all so wrong. It's like that didn't bring them back. None of this is true. Bohemian Rhapsody, the technical delivery of it, and that bloke who plays Freddie Mercury, he's really good, but his face isn't right. Nobody else says this. His face is not right. And I can't explain why is his face not right. It's too buggy. It's that bloke. I mean, he's a good actor. He was in that bloody film that ruined James Bond as well. What is his name? Ralph? No, not Ralph, is it? It wouldn't be Ralph. Oh, I don't know the bloke. He's a good actor. He does it really, really well. But it's not the right person. They should have had Daley Thompson do it. That's all I'm saying. I'm moving on. Right, so, number 7. The Beatles. Beatles can do no wrong, can't they? Can do no wrong. And in 1967, they were at their peak. They'd written the greatest songs ever. Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, all these brilliant songs, right? And what did they decide to do with these songs? They decided to put it in a film that will be shown on Christmas Day on British television called The Magical Mystery Tour. And they decide to create a film which combines sort of abstract, sort of surreal humour with a sort of seaside package holiday thing that was done much, much better by the Carry On team on Carry On at Your Convenience.
Camera.
If you could have wedged those songs into Carry On at Your Convenience, we would have a work of genius. But this film is rubbish. And it's all psychedelic and colourful. And then they stick it out on Christmas Day. It's in black and white back in then, because that's all anybody had. They've all eaten their turkey. They've watched the Queen, not the band, the Queen. And then this comes on and they're all disappointed by it. And it was a bloody threw away these songs. And then because they'd done this, they had to get those songs and stick them on a couple of bloody EP things and put them out. And they should have been on a proper album with the other great songs, probably Sgt. Pepper or all that. And if they had done that, they would have made the greatest album ever made. But instead, they made one of the worst films ever made. Hard Day's Night is work of genius. Help. See, Help is supposed to be a worker G. I don't think it is. I watched it the other day and I had to switch it off. It just got on my nerves. And I don't like that. For some reason, Hard Day's Night, they get away with it. But the Hard Day's Night is just riddled with sort of like English working class take on French Nouvelle Vague. That's what we've got there. Richard Lester did a good thing. But they got too much money and they do too much. And the thing with Help is as well, it's full of a lot of racial stereotypes, isn't it, if you watch it? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem to sit right nowadays. Go and have a watch of it. There's a lot of you know, like you got to have people like nowadays. Actors can't act anymore. They can act certain bits, but you're not allowed to act anything. You could act to being a tree, and James Corden, right, can act being a cat. So we all know that James Corden is not a cat, right? He's a twat, right? But a twat can play a cat. But nowadays you can't have someone who's not black playing a black person. Obviously, you could have a black person playing someone who's not black. You can do all that. It's all. That's the way the world we live in. And you watch it. You watch what's going on, right? On Help. But we're not talking about Help. Magical Mystery Tour is rubbish, right? I think Help's worse actually. Now because I did this, I thought I've never liked Magic. I blame Magical Mystery Tour for really ruining the Beatles' 1967 watershed year. And then Hendrix comes out and just spoils it because Hendrix is so much better than the Beatles. Right. At number 6, I have any film by Prince. I'm not counting Sign of the Times. Sign of the Times is pretty good. Still gets on my nerves a little bit, but it's pretty good. That's just a live concert. But Purple Rain, Graffiti Bridge, Under a Cherry Moon. I mean, bloody Prince, right? Prince. Films are a bridge too far in Prince. Prince can do it. He can sing, he can dance, he can play about 40 instruments. He can do all these things. He's a rock star. He's got charisma. Prince was the best. But for some reason, he had to make films. And what's bizarre is once he got to a position where he made a film called Purple Rain. Now, I love Prince. I don't like the Purple Rain album much. And I hate the film. And I tell you why I hate the film. Because Prince is too small in that film. And he's chasing around that Apollonia lady. And Apollonia, she's a statuesque lady. There's no two ways about it. And he's small compared to her. And he's always like behind her, or he's got her on the back of his motorbike. And he looks like he doesn't look right. And when he woos her and you watch that scene and he comes up behind her, it just doesn't look right. And then, you know, all you do Purple Rain and play your big emotional guitar solo, it doesn't get round the fact. And I cannot believe, right, that film, which is basically just him riding about on a motorbike to his songs off the album and then mumbling at the camera, was such a huge hit. Prince could do no wrong. And because of this, they gave him extra budget. So he made the black and white Under a Cherry Moon, which I have watched. And I can't even remember it. It was some sort of like decadent sort of 1930s set thing. I can't. I have watched it and I remember thinking, this is appalling. This is what happens when you give some people money and a budget and they make a film. It's appalling. Of course, it's completely forgotten now. And then he did Graffiti Bridge.
I want to battle tonight.
Boy, don't you know who I am?
Let me show him, Warren.
All right, man. Bring him over here.
Anyway, number 5, we've got another musical. A few years ago, before Netflix and Amazon Prime Video, I used to buy DVDs so the kids would have something to watch. And once we bought all the obvious things, like the box set of Harry Potter, the box set of Lord of the Rings, you know, and all those types of things, Lion King, all the things that little kids like, we'd watched absolutely everything. And I can remember going into a shop and they were selling off some DVDs and they were selling them off very, very cheap. And one of the DVDs that I knew nothing about was a DVD called Into the Woods. Now, this was the film version of the Sondheim musical Into the Woods, right? And again, should have spotted it, it got James Corden in, right? Why? When will they learn? Okay? So, We go home and I'd say, kids, we'll get some treats, sit down, watch a film. They were only little. Oh, that'd be really good. Then what film's got? It looks really good. It's creepy. It's a musical, and it looks like it's got witches. It's scary, and it's called Into the Woods, right? Oh, that'd be really good. That one, Dad. So they put it on. We're all sat there like this. It starts up. James Corden comes out and he's singing and he's singing and he's singing and he sings and he sings. There's no tune to this. It's just someone telling the story through singing, and it never ever stops. It won't stop. And they all come on. They're singing all the way through. And you don't care what the plot is because you just absolutely don't care. Now, some people are going to say that this is a great musical. Stephen Sondheim's a genius. Great. I hated this. My kids hated this, right? And I kept thinking, it's got to kick in. This film's got to kick in. It's got 5 stars. Everyone says it's great, right? It's got to kick in, and it never did. And I think, who came out at the end of it? That Meryl Streep came out. And I mean, she sings in the remake of Mary Poppins. She's bloody brilliant. Streep can do anything. She can do anything, right? Even singing musicals. And she does the job. She's better than... She doesn't rescue it. Anyway, and I've never done this before, but when we got to the end of it, I was so upset by how crap this was and how it wasted a part of my life that I ejected the DVD, and then with my bare hands, I ripped the DVD and its case apart. I bit it and broke it and snapped it and threw it on the floor in this disgust. And then I looked around at my kids looking at me, horrified at the violence that they just experienced their father, putting onto that DVD. It frightened them. They've had to have counselling about it. Into the Woods. Right, number 4, we have a film I have not seen. And I've put it up really high as well. So you've got to tell me whether this film's rubbish or not. I'm guessing here that this film's rubbish. It's Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. There's a part of me that thinks this might be really good, right? But the fact that nobody mentions it and it's Kiss, right? I've never seen anything of it. I don't know much about it, right? But the idea that they made a film and it's like Kiss, I don't know anything about. I mean, they're basically here because I can't tell you how much I hate Kiss. And all the American types, they love Kiss, don't they? If you're talking to American rock type, they treat Kiss like it's Led Zeppelin. And Kiss aren't Led Zeppelin, right? They just aren't, right? And the production's muddy and rubbish. They're not very good players. The songs are just rubbish songs, but also have terrible lyrics. They're all over the place. Their biggest album, Destroyer, is like a bloody disco album. The only album I really like by them is The Elder, because it's a bit proggy and no one likes that, and Creatures of the Night, which for some reason is amazing, and I don't understand how they fluked it. Creatures of the Night is amazing. I Love It Loud's amazing. It all comes together there. But I think it's because they got Bruce Kulick on guitar, and he was a proper musician, although he seemed to be a right pain in the arse. That's about as much as I know Kiss. I've never seen Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, right? This is where I'm at, And that's why I hadn't done this list, because I was going to sit down and watch that so I could say something about it. And then I thought, I'm just going for it. The true fans will go, fair enough, Andy doesn't know anything about this. We'll be able to tell him. We'll tell him in the comments. And so have a look in the comments what you think. If I'm wrong, tell me. Right? But if it is truly rubbish, maybe I should have put it at number 10, but I didn't. Because when I put the list up, it came into my mind straight away. Even though I haven't watched it, I just have assumed all my life it would be rubbish. Right, at number 3, I have Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Not the album by the Beatles, but the film that was made in the late 70s where they stitched together some awful plots based around the songs on Sgt. Pepper, and then got a load of different musicians to come in and play those songs, right? Now, Earth, Wind and Fire came in and they did a version of Got to Get You Into My Life, which is better than the Beatles one. And that was a huge hit record for them. And that bit's okay, but it's ruined by the awful plot line. At one point, you got Frankie Howard, the British comedian, singing a Beatles song. And isn't it got Robin Gibb? I think I've watched this twice. Aerosmith are in it at one point. It's an absolute mess. A little bit like Can't Stop the Music. You feel like it's one of those late 70s cocaine-fueled films. And they're all there making it, going, what's the next bit? Let's get Earth, Wind and Fire in. No, get Robin Gibb, you get him to sing with Aerosmith. If Aerosmith turned up, yeah, but they're snorting a lot of coke in the dressing room. When them, man, get them out, we're all, let's just make the film, come on, we got it, we got the money in this. That is what it seems like. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band takes this brand, right? It takes the brand. Who was the guy that put it together? There's some rock impresario, wasn't it? Can't really remember. Anyway, I've got to save up number 2 and number 1 because these are smack on, right? Okay, and number 2 is a film that is so truly awful, but I have to admit, I love this film. And I saw it quite recently, and I loved every minute of it, right? This film is truly awful, but it's so awful, it's actually good, right? It's like Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's on another level. It was made before Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know why Queen did not refer to this film for the genius that it is, because if you're going to make a biopic and you're going to have actors walking around pretending to be people, right? If you're going to have all that and have the wigs and everyone's trying to come up with the songs and the spot and all that bit, right? Just do it as worst as you possibly can. And Def Leppard did when they sanctioned the film Hysteria, the Def Leppard story.
He was 15 when he joined the band. By the time he was 19, he was one of the biggest rock bands in the world. All he wanted to do was play drums and drive a fast car.
The arm has to be amputated.
Doctor, I'm a drummer.
This film is truly awful, right? Now, how long have we got? I've been doing this for like 25 minutes. Feels like I've been doing it for an hour. This could go on for a while. Because the one I've got at number 1, just as I'll just explain what it's about and you'll know that this is the worst music film ever made. But this one really needs some explanation, right? Because I loved it. When I watched it, I was drawn in. I wasn't watching it in a sort of postmodern, ironic way. I really was drawn in by the characters and the stories, and I was with them throughout the whole of it. I loved it. I loved it so much, and yet it was so truly awful. So you've got Def Leppard. They're up in Sheffield, right? So they've all got northern accents, and northern accents are quite funny. So, and all that like that. So they're forming this rock band, right? And there's all argy-bargy. They get this, and they're thinking lots of wigs being worn, lots of trying to ring up, think how to write songs like Photograph and Rock of Ages and I don't think they did Rock Brigade. Did they do Rock Brigade? But there's a lot of that going on, right? And then the band form and they start to get really big and Steve Clark, the guitarist, he's drinking lots because he's insecure. He's always so insecure. They get Phil Collins, and he's a good guitarist. And then there's all sort of that's going on. It's all absolutely ridiculous. Then, of course, what's this film based around? It's based around the bit when Rick Allen loses his arm. So we're all waiting for this to happen in the film. So he's driving along with his girlfriend like this, loses control of the car. The car spins loads and loads of times, and then it cuts to this scene, right? And it's like, Rick Allen's like this, right? So he's lost his arm, right? So he's walking around like this. He's all dazed. It's not funny. This really happened. But he's all dazed like this, going, oh, like that. And then this person runs up and he's like that, and they go up to him and she goes, "Are you okay?" or something like that. And he turns around and goes, "I want me mum." Which any British person from Sheffield, that is exactly what you would say. It's accurate. But it made me laugh, and then the bloke sees this, and then he looks down, and then Rick Allen's arms lying on the floor. It's like, and he's like, oh. And he turns around and goes, "I'm a famous drummer." It's just truly ridiculous. And then he's trying to do all this. And then Steve Clark, he's got this drink problem. What's going to happen with his drink problem? Then it's like the end of Spinal Tap when they get the gig in Japan. The next thing, they're doing a gig and it's all sorted out. You go, oh, because it was made It was made after Steve Clark died, but they just go, oh, it's all sorted out now, everything's fine. And then the film finishes, the end, and then it says, oh, Steve Clark actually did die. And I thought, bloody hell, you can't do that. Watch it. It's on YouTube. You don't even have to pay for it. It's so rubbish that it's on YouTube and nobody cares. Def Leppard made this film, which I think with VH1 or something like that. It's so bad, it's amazing. And the same goes for this one at number one, which is so terrible. Now, I put it at number one because I want you lot to tell me I'm not dreaming, okay? Because I keep researching into this and I get it all facts down. And then when I come to do it and I look at this film, I go, nah, this film doesn't exist. Because if it existed, everyone would go on about it. Nobody goes on about it, right? The film is by Status Quo, right? Status Quo are a British rock band, the boogie rock band, right? They're massive in this country. They're like household names. Status Quo is one of the biggest rock bands of all time. They're like Slade. Those two are like mammoth, massive bands, you know. They've all had about 30 hit records, number one, sold millions and millions of records, and never could quite make it in the States. The reason is because their rock is very English in its form. It doesn't transport outside. But you've got to understand, Status Quo are like household names. Now, in the 70s, they were amazing. I love Status Quo. They're cheesy, but they're amazing. They're a boogie band. They're straight down the line. There's no pretense there. They just rock out. And there's a whole sort of cliche around Status Quo that they only can play 3 chords. And they actually add to that. But it's not the case. If you listen to their stuff, it's actually quite competent and well written and really good songwriting and all that type of stuff. Right? They were formed in like 1962. They go through the 60s in all different incarnations. And then they have like this sort of psychedelic hit in 1968 called Pictures of Matchstick Men, which is brilliant. When you watch Spinal Tap and they have that shot of them doing that psychedelic bit, they're taking the mickey there out of Status Quo, right? Then they decide to all wear matching denim, right? And they actually get a sponsorship by denim at the time, by Levi, I think. And they start rocking out and they go to this sort of dirty rock and roll thing and they make incredible tracks like Caroline and Just Supposing and Whatever You Want. And I loved all this as a kid, I still do. Once the 80s came along, they got terrible drug habits at this point, especially Rick Parfitt, who have sadly died of a heart attack through overindulgence. But and then they still kept going, but that's by the by. As the 80s came on, in 1982, they'd been going for 20 years, and they were one of the first bands to have been going for 20 years. So they did this 20 years concert, right? And Prince Charles came to see it. And once Prince Charles watching you, I mean, his favourite band at the time was bloody 3 Degrees. So once Prince Charles likes you, you've had it, right? Any rock sort of, kudos, you've lost it. They did Band-Aid, they did a good job at Live Aid, got the crowd going. But as the 80s progressed, they sort of descend into a sort of real middle-of-the-road pap. Now, at some point, they needed a tax write-off, so they decided to make a film. And it's called Bula Quo, right? And it's about the band going on holiday. This is true, right? They go on holiday in this film to some sort of package holiday in Spain and get involved in some sort of robbery or crime. I have watched this film and I can't really remember it that well. I watched it, and then the next morning when I woke up, I thought, that's not real. Have I dreamt this? Has Status Quo's made a film? It is truly awful. The band know it's awful. They go through it knowing that they're going to get a holiday out of bloody this tax write. It's so obvious what's going on. The plot is just, it's like the plot, it's like,
They had guitars in the 70s.
Don't let them out your sight. I don't want no bad press, no police, no nothing.
I think we're about to witness a murder. If we don't look round.
Rick! Where are you? No.
Who are these clowns?
These guys are real gangsters.
Have they seen us?
Oh, I think they've seen us.
They can't have gone that far. They're ancient.
What? You don't know where they are.
So how do you find them?
People screaming, flashing blue police lights. Come on, get up.
So this is your actual job? 100 years of rescuing these two?
This is going to be such a great shot for the video.
As long as that's the only thing they're shooting at us.
There's a flip-flop. Oh,
Another one bites the dust. Oh, no, that's not one of yours.
In the early 60s in the UK, they used to make these films with like Billy Fury in, and it's always a sort of similar plot. The sort of peak of these would be Summer Holiday by the Shadows. There's a certain British early rock and roll cash-in film, you know, and there's a whole ton of them. And the plot lines are pretty dodgy. There's usually something like a crime involved, and they're in there on the sidelines of it. And this is a bit like that. That's what Bula Quo is like anyway. I can't say much more about it. I've done this video. Oh, I feel like I need to do it again. Oh, but it was some laughs there, wasn't it? I think it'll be all right, bloody hell. You know, I ain't going to spend a load of time. I'm researching important stuff for my channel, important musical things. Can't be wasting my time on this. Oh, nice, half an hour long as well. See, that's what happens when you don't research. You don't have as much to say. But there was some funny bits. I feel like I've delivered something. I don't know what's it all about. Nice sunny day outside. I'm now going to have something to eat. Get on to the next bit of the day. I hope you lot are all right. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one. And if you feel that I should have done a bit more research and know what I was talking about, if you're one of those sort of fair weather viewers, you don't really get what's going on here, do you? You don't really get what's going on. But, I'll tell you all about it one day. But go and have a look at some of the other videos, because there is some proper stuff here. But sometimes I like to sit here, like the middle-aged man I am, and just let it all out. All the prejudices, all the bile, all the uninformed annoyance that I have of the whole of bloody contemporary culture. That's what I like to do. And that's what you're seeing. And I think similar men of a similar age enjoy it. It's cathartic that we do this. I think, so those of you watching, if you go, what the hell's this bloke doing this for? For men of a certain age, this is cathartic. This stops them from going out and like blowing up at a shop girl who's done nothing wrong. That's what happens with middle-aged men. They can get very annoyed in shops when it doesn't go wrong. But hopefully, you know, they've been able to let out all their bile by watching this video and shouting, "Andy, you're bloody right, I hate that. James Corden, I can't stick him." You know, and that's why he's there. He is there to take the middle-aged man's ire. That's what he is there, Corden. That's what he's for. Bloody carpool karaoke with all these bloody famous mates driving around with Paul McCartney, thinking he's the bee's knees, because he shouldn't be. I should be doing that. You know. With the Red Hot, remember the Red Hot Chili Peppers one Corden did, where the anti-kiddies did actually help somebody? I can't remember all that. Anyway, going off on a tangent, we're done. See you on the next one. But I just wanted to tell you about a few ways that you can support me here on YouTube and get access to even more weirder and wackier content. First of all, you could become a patron. You could become a free member or a paid up member. I have over 300 extra videos on there, and if you don't even want to become a member, please pop over, because you can access my collections where you can purchase even more weirder and wackier video content. If you want to support me financially with a little tip, buy me some biscuits or maybe some crisps, you could pop over to my PayPal tip jar. I also have a Substack where I have lots of clever, academic and thought out articles where I explain my ideas on art, culture and creativity in a more intelligent way than I do here, plus a whole ton of podcasts. If you want to know what my music sounds like, you can pop over to my Bandcamp. Over there, you'll be able to listen to over 50 albums, and if you want to access them all, you could become a subscriber. And last but not least, if you want to support the wonderful studio where I film these lovely videos, which is actually a charity trying to help people out in the community become more creative, here is the website where you could
drop a few pounds or dollars or whatever the currency is in your country in there. Thanks for listening, and back to the show.